Welcome to another episode of the Chicks on the Right podcast. Today, we have our very special guest, the spokesperson from Birch Gold, Phillip Patrick, with us to talk about what's going on in this crazy economy right now, because there's the latest inflation report that came as a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. What is happening with inflation right now?
It is increasing. It is surging, and we sort of expected that. Look, last month the Fed cut interest rates by 0.5%, and the excuse was that the cooling labor market was now a bigger risk than inflation. So they cut rates, and of course, the very next inflation report, we saw core CPI, which is basically inflation outside of food and energy, rose 3.3% year over year, reversing the downward trend that we'd seen at the start of the year. And I think it's problematic because by cutting interest rates, the Fed are basically saying that the war on inflation is over, mission accomplished, and it's clearly not the case. And more concerningly, if you delved into the numbers, we start to realize that only two categories have actually declined in price over the last 12 months, and that's energy commodities, so gasoline and fuel oil, and vehicle prices. And that's it. Every other category, food, utilities, insurance, home prices, everything else is more expensive. So obviously that's unwelcome news because it tells us that while inflation is no longer sort of blazing hot, it's still smoldering. And I think there's a lot of fuel out there to see it spark up again.
Yeah, we're feeling it. So what are the inflationary pressures, and then where are they coming from?
Honestly, there's a lot of different forces that are driving prices up, some obvious and some more surprising. I think the big one, the elephant in the room, is obviously government spending, right? We've got to remember that federal dollars compete for the same resources that our dollars do. So Biden's $7 trillion in deficit spending is directly contributed to higher prices. We have a lot of immigration now, a lot of illegal immigration, putting a strain on sort of resources, competing for food and other things. We have wars in the Middle East, right, contributing to higher prices, not just in terms of oil prices, but a significant surge in international shipping costs. And then we got other things, growing demand for AI services, the expansion of credit. So we're getting hit from almost every direction. I think all of these factors are contributing to an economy where American families are just struggling to make ends meet. And that's what we're hearing a lot now.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's like a recent survey that said 2 out of 3 American households are living paycheck to paycheck. And I think everybody worries, like, how much worse can this get?
I mean, you're absolutely correct. And we're feeling it across the board. And sadly, I think it could. And, you know, I'm desperate to come on with some better economic news soon, right? But I'm not sure we're there yet. Look, the problem that we're seeing is tens of millions of Americans have been accumulating debt in recent years because their paychecks just aren't keeping pace with the cost of living. The report last week said that a record number of working Americans are now having to have multiple jobs just to make ends meet, and people are earning over $100,000 a year in America are struggling to make ends meet, which is crazy. Look, what I think is becoming increasingly clear is that the US economy is splitting, right, between the wealthiest households whose net worth are invested in assets and who are actually doing quite well at the moment because prices are surging up across the board. And of course, everyone else whose net worth is in their paycheck, who are getting crushed with sort of rising prices and slower growth. But, you know, we have to remember inflationary pressures push all prices up. It's not just food, fuel, but real estate, natural resources, and commodities. So I think the key to thriving in environments like this is to avoid debt and to preserve purchasing power by owning tangible assets that increase with the cost of living.
Okay. So people that pay attention to this stuff know that gold resists inflation. Talk about the price of gold lately.
Yeah, we're hitting highs, right? And it's a reflection of inflation and dollar devaluation that we're talking about, right? Inflation drives the price of commodities up, right? So that works for wheat, corn, pork bellies, and gold. The difference between gold, it's an investable asset. I can't have 1 million bushels of wheat in my living room. They will spoil.
I mean, you could.
I mean, I could.
That would be mad.
I could. it's problematic. So we're seeing obviously inflation driving the value of gold up and demand. I mean, demand is at all-time highs across
Yeah.
central governments for the last 2.5 years. So look, what applies to the big guys, it applies to us, right? They have their wealth in dollars that they need to use to buy goods for their country. It's the same for us, right? On a much smaller scale. They're hedging their dollar exposure, they're hedging inflation using gold. And, that's why we're seeing all-time highs.
Well, I mean, we tell our audience all the time that they should be looking to Birch Gold for an education, first of all, about how to invest in gold, why it matters, why it might be a great addition to any retirement portfolio. How can people learn more?
It's really simple. Text chicks to 989898, chicks to 989898. That's going to get them access to free information. Like you said, for us, being informed is like the hard part. Once people are there, decision making becomes easy. So we offer free information, no obligation. Chicks to 989898, read it, and then from there, if they want to learn more, they can give us a call. They'll have access to people like myself who are there to sort of guide them through, answer questions, and step by step.
Fantastic.
That's perfect. Thank you, Phillip. It's always so informative to hear from you.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's so much fun always. Thank you.